Hello and welcome to the Greatest Games podcast brought to you by 816 Basketball. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Rosefield, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris de Blasio.
Hello, Brian. Good to be here today. For those of you who have not listened to the Greatest Games podcast, what it is a chance for us to catch up with basketball coaches from around the country and have them tell us about their greatest game they were a part of as a coach. Like we always say, we don't put any limits on them. It could be their time as a head coach, an assistant coach, B-team coach. It could be a championship game. It could be a loss, whatever they consider to be their greatest game.
Well, I'm ready to get started, so let's welcome in our guest for today, Coach Yerrick Stoneman, who just completed his fourth season as the head boys basketball coach at Ridgeview High School in Columbia, South Carolina. Coach, welcome on in. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you, and appreciate y'all having me on.
Well, we're glad you're here and just excited to delve into more of your journey as a coach, to hear about your greatest game. And tell us, how many state championships in a row have you won?
I've been fortunate enough to have good enough players to win 3 in a row. So it's definitely an exciting time at Ridgeview, but I'm just excited to be there and have great players to be able to coach.
Well, it's really because you have a great AD. Let's be honest.
Yes,
That's where
definitely.
the success comes from.
That's
But
right.
yeah, you don't like the old saying goes, it ain't about the X's and O's, it's about the Billies and Joes.
That's it.
So,
Well, in the
Coach,
South, we say Jimmy's and Joe's. But
Jimmy's and Joes, okay.
Yeah, but that's in the South, though.
Coach, why don't you go ahead and give us your coaching resume? Tell us where you've coached, how long, and any accolades you want to tell us about.
Well,
just
I
heard
don't
about
like
your 3 state
I don't like
championships.
to hear about my accolades. I prefer talking about the kids that I've been able to help and the journey through that. But I started coaching when I was 16 years old. As a rec center, I worked at the rec center, or the Y, and one Saturday morning, their coach didn't show up, and I said, "Well, I'll coach you." And then from that point on, I was stuck. I knew that's what I wanted to be, is be a coach. So that was a 3rd grade team that I coached when I was 16 years old, and then went to Virginia Tech and was a student assistant there my last 2 years. And, won the NIT in 95. I was with Ace Custis, Sean Smith, Sean Good, some of those who played. Yep. We played Marquette in the final up there, and that was an unbelievable game in the Madison Square Garden. And from that point, I went back to my alma mater and was a girls JV coach. And then in Virginia, they had girls in the fall and boys in the spring. And then I was the JV's assistant coach for the boys. And after 1 year of doing that, I was very fortunate to land a position at Oak Hill Academy, where I was assistant coach for Steve Smith for 11 years. And probably 11 of my most memorable years as a coach. We not only traveled all across the country, but we got to travel to the Netherlands and play Cuba national team, the Olympic team, the Dutch national team, professional teams over in Israel, and got to see Brazil's Olympic team play. So we were in a different bracket, and of course we didn't win games there, but we were able to watch those great teams there play. And then I was there 11 years, and 5 of those years we were fortunate enough to win the mythical high school national championship. And I went back to Galax. I'm originally from a small town in Virginia called Galax, Virginia. I went back there to be the athletic director. And I was the athletic director there for 2 years, and I decided to join back into the Army Reserve. Ended up getting deployed to Iraq in 2010, and before I was coming home in November of 2010, I think this was about mid-October, the girls coach there stepped down, and I called the superintendent, and I said I would be very interested, and the reason why is because I have twin daughters. They'll be 21 in less than a month, but I wanted to spend more time with them, and fortunately, I was able to get that job, and that really helped me as a coach, being able to coach girls. It's a different, you're not coaching athleticism, you're coaching strategically, and the X's and O's. I spent 6 years there. And then luckily, my girls, I guess, didn't really want to pursue it their senior year, and Coach Rosefield, somehow we connected through a friend, and ended up coming down to Ridgeview, and the last 4 years has been unbelievable. A great ride for me and my family, and hopefully the Ridgeview community.
That's awesome. So that's a great journey. I mean, you've done all kinds of things at all kinds of levels and been an athletic director. So I think that gives you a lot of perspective as a coach.
Yeah, and I think one of the key points in the interview with Coach Rosefield is, I told him, I said, I don't think there's a coach should be a coach unless he's been an AD, and I don't think an AD should be an AD unless he's been a coach. So you got to understand both sides, and I'm very, very fortunate to, and I'm not just saying it because he's on the other mic and he helps signs my checks, but I'm very fortunate to work for Coach Rosefield, and the things that he allows me to do. But it also, he's a basketball mind, and there's a lot of times I'll go in his office and just shoot basketball stuff off of him, because I know he's got a great basketball mind, and he's willing to share it only if you ask.
Well, that check will be in the mail to you, Coach, for all those nice things you said. Yeah, but no, it's Chris, it really is. It's awesome to be able to have a guy like Coach in our building, just the person that he is and the basketball coach that he is with all these experiences. But it's really a pleasure to be able to work with you.
But I think, Yerrick, you make a great point. Administration, man, is so important. I mean, you see people in places that are supported by good administration and places that aren't, and it's just night and day when you have positive administration. They're helping you out. I think it just makes a world of difference.
Definitely, and I think not just with Coach Rosefield, but with our principal, Dr. Mack, and our assistant principal, who's over athletics, Mr. Ross. They see the whole picture. They don't see the wins and losses. They see the whole picture of what we're doing inside the school building, what we do outside the school building, within our community, with our kids, and, really trying to develop, for me, these young men into being great people in the community. And, they see that. They don't see the wins and losses, which it's helped a little bit that we are winning. But, I could tell that first year it wasn't about winning and losing. It was about, you have to develop these kids and to be better people.
Absolutely. All right, Coach. So we're going to go to a little Q&A segment here. We're going to have some fun questions, maybe some deep questions. Tell us about, have you ever broken a whiteboard or a clipboard or broken something in anger during a game or during halftime?
Do I have to answer that one? No, I'm kidding. I've kicked some chairs before. I'll give you a perspective on how competitive I can be, which times have changed and I've changed. But I was also my daughter's girls volleyball coach at the varsity level. So I've coached girls varsity basketball, varsity volleyball, and varsity girls track. So all in the same year. And it was a small school. I had all the girls pretty much in all the sports. So we'd just been to the state semifinals the year before. I had almost everyone back. We were in the second round of the playoffs, and we were playing awful. And the girls didn't do what I asked them to do. And I used to always coach with a Diet Dr. Pepper. And somehow the anger got to me. I got up, I slammed the Dr. Pepper down. It went under my chair. It spun all the way over to where my principal, school board member, and superintendent was sitting, and the lid popped off and it spun all the way around. The gym totally got quiet. Needless to say, they thought it was too stressful for me to do all three after a couple of years of that. So, I ended up just doing girls basketball after that, which was good. But, that's a funny story that I think Sometimes we as coaches take things out of perspective, but we did get the win. We did advance to the state semifinals again. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it was shocking to the girls that I could get angry with them sometimes.
I tell you, being a former girls coach, when I would lose my cool, which I know is hard to believe, but when I would lose my cool, the gym would just get it's a hush quiet, and the girls looking around like, now what do we do? And so I can certainly hear that in your story with that. So, Coach, how do you see your role as a high school coach? What do you believe are I guess the things that you are really trying to accomplish as a high school coach?
Well, I think specifically just basketball. It's not people, me trying to develop them as better people. But if we're just looking at basketball, my main focus is effort and attitude. And I know a lot of coaches preach that, but that's the only thing that I truly correct my kids on. If their effort or their attitude is out of place, that's when I get upset. And even in games now, and Coach Rosefield, he'll be, I guess my vouch on this is that I am pretty laid back in the games. But if I see a kid disrespect someone or disrespect the game more so, and their effort is not very good, that's when my mentality changes. That's when I get upset. And I think my first year at Ridgeview was shocked. The kids got shocked because I didn't take them out when they would make mistakes. They'd miss a shot or they make a bad play. I'm always talking to them. It's the next play that matters. We all make mistakes. We all miss layups. We all miss dunks. Well, some of us, I never had the opportunity to miss a dunk, but those type things, it's okay to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. But if you do make a mistake, be the first one back on the defensive end or whatever. So those two things is your effort and attitude is the main thing that I pride myself on within the program.
Do you have a go-to pregame speech?
I'm probably very different than every coach in America. I don't give pregame speeches.
See, I don't talk postgame. That's interesting.
Yeah, I do no pregame. I think everything should already been set before you step up before the game. I feel I do a good job at the high school level of scouting my opponents, putting the scouting report together for the team. And so they already know what to expect. And, I guess my go-to speech is like, and I've said it, usually to start the season or even at big games, if you are looking for a speech to get you motivated to play in this game, to compete against someone else, you probably got the wrong coach. Because regardless, for me, I want to compete regardless at anything. I got a Connect Four board in my office. The kids will come in and I'll compete and talk trash to them every single time that they come in. But it's just my nature. I want to compete. I don't need a speech to get me going. And our kids shouldn't need that either. So that's maybe unique because I think, all the college coaches, the great college coaches, you hear the great speeches that they say, and I just can't remember them. So maybe that's one reason why.
You've done a great job. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Coach, I agree with you about that, about the motivation. I always say that about the music. Like, what does it matter what music is playing before the game?
Yeah.
Like, you need this song to get you ready to play. Who cares?
That's true. That's definitely true, especially with music. But, sometimes we got to tailor ourselves to the kids. Our kids like certain music. They like their individuality. And I think that's where times have changed, is that it's okay to be an individual as long as we can come together. And when it's time, in warm-ups, I let our kids be individuals. Wear what you want. I don't make our kids wear the same shoes. I don't make our kids have the same warm-up tops. One, because the kids will have to go out and buy it. And that was when I grew up, I didn't have the opportunity to have a lot of things. My mother struggled quite a bit buying things for us. So I've always felt like if they're on my team, if I'm giving it to them, yes, I expect them to wear it. But if they have to go out and their parents have to buy it, then I'm not going to make it mandatory that they have to have it. But, I'm a firm believer, let them be individuals. But when that jump ball comes up, all 16 of us, I had 16 on the team this year, and our 7 coaches, we have to be together as one team.
All right. So it's obvious the winning is taking care of itself for you. 3 straight state championships at Ridgeview. But how would you truly define success for each team that you coach?
Since we've been in this COVID-19, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of coaches are saying, what our kids are able to do and how we allow them to develop. So for each team, I've only been at Ridgeview for 4 years. I'm not yet quite getting to the point where, because my first year's team will be seniors in college. So, we push them to college, we push them into the military or trade school. That's what we try to do. But, for me at Ridgeview, I think in about 3 or 4 years, I can determine the success by where they are in society. I've got one kid at Citadel. Once he leaves Citadel in 3 or 4 years, where is he at? I had two guys. One's playing football at Citadel. So that's where I look at it and see, did I do a good job? Because as in coaching and all that, a lot of times you don't get your pat on the back until years down the road, and when you can see how they've grown. And I'll bring up one guy because I'm really close with him. We actually talked yesterday, and it's Sagana Jop. He played 13, 14 years in the league. He wasn't a great player in the league. He was drafted right out of high school. But to see where he came from when he got to Oak Hill Academy, the 2 years that he was there, and, when he was drafted, we went up, the family and I went up. My daughters were 3 years old. We went up, and the things that he was able to do for us, and that he fed us, but we participated in his religion. He's a Muslim, so we participated in how he did things up there. But now he's the assistant coach. He's been assistant coach with Utah Jazz for about 4 or 5 years now. He's got a family. He's got businesses in Dakar, Senegal. He's still coaching. He has unbelievable family, and he's able to provide for them. So there's my success with him and that team. It takes a few years and before I can truly tell you about what I do and how successful I think each team is it's, it takes time. I want to see how they develop as young men.
Well, that's music to my ears. the conversations we've had over the years, and Chris and everybody listening in, I just can't say enough good things about the job that you're doing. Obviously, like I say, the winning is taking care of itself, but just to have that vision and that care and that true relationship building that you've got with our kids, and even whether they play basketball or not, it's one of my favorite things is to watch you around the hallways with kids that you don't coach or not in your classes that just want to come up and talk to you, and you just want to talk to them. So it's really special.
Thank you.
Really, really special. So, all right. So, the point of the show is to talk about your greatest game. You've been a part of basketball for a long, long time, but this is the time we'd love to hear about the greatest game that you've ever been a part of. You can tell us as much background information as you can and why it's so special to you.
I've been in a long time, so it'd be hard for me to pinpoint one game. I'll probably, if you allow me to go in several games and steps as through my coaching. But, like I said, that very first game that I coached when I was 16 years old, I was coaching a third grade team. There was 2 seconds left on the clock. We get fouled. We're down 3. And the kid goes to the free throw line, makes his first one. I call a timeout, and his name is BB Brown. I said, BB, hit the front of the rim. And, you know, at that age, you're only about 4 or 5 feet from the rim anyhow to shoot your free throws, and it's an 8-foot goal. I said, hit the front of the rim, get it, and score it, and shoot it as quick as you can. And, you know, at that age, I'm sure people are trying to help out on the score clock and this, you know, for the kids. But he did it, and he made it, and we went to overtime and ended up winning the game. So that, you know, like I said earlier, that's what got me into coaching, that right there. And, you know, I was excited. More so, you know, I would look forward to, after I get done with my practices during the week, I would run down to the rec center, which was only half a mile down the road, run down there, coach that team. And I was more excited about coaching that team than I was playing a lot of times. And then, you know, Saturdays, we always had our games there. So
Coach should have retired after that. 1-0.
1-0.
1-0, overtime win, strategy. I'd have rode off in the sunset.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be where I was at if it wasn't for that. But, and then, you know, I think, you know, I went to Virginia Tech. I was walking around campus my first 2 years there, and I really didn't have – I knew I wanted to coach, but I needed someone to give me an opportunity to learn more. And I just walked in the office one day, and Dean Keener, which was at one time the head coach at JMU, now he's living in Atlanta and running one of the biggest gyms in Atlanta. But I went in. He was our administrative assistant. So he was the last guy on the totem pole. And I went in and I said, I want to manage. And he's like, well, we don't really have that position open right now. But why don't you come back and you can help us manage the JV team? I'm like, okay. So he told me when the tryouts was. I got there the first day, and I started watching them play, and I'm like, Coach, I know I committed to you being a manager, but would you allow me to try out too? And he's like, sure. And luckily for me that he allowed me to do it, but I made the JV team that year, and did the managing job, started. And that was funny. I don't think too many people can say that they were the manager of a team and started. But, you know, we played like Oak Hill Academy. We'd play Fork Unions and those type teams, Hargraves. We would play them. So the next year he said, why don't you come and be a student assistant for the main team? I said, most definitely. And so him and Bobby Hussey took me under the wing. So I was Bobby Hussey's right-hand man with the post guys, and that was Sean Smith, Ace Custis, Travis Johnson, and some of them. But I learned so much from Bobby Hussey and Dean Keener that, you know, I was able to bring a lot of that with me. But, you know, the game that I remember the most is being in Madison Square Garden. Growing up as a kid, even though I was in a small town in Virginia, I knew what Madison Square Garden was. So we went up there, we got our practices, we won the first game, and we were just shocked. And then, you know, the 2 nights later, we play in the finals and end up beating Marquette. So that experience there is like the first time that I was actually a part of coaching and won something big. So, you know, I definitely contribute. Dean Keener and Bobby Hussey for giving me that opportunity. And then at Oak Hill, man, we had so many unbelievable games. You know, going to L.A., playing Compton Dominguez, beating Compton Dominguez, you know, wasn't on their floor, but it was in their city. You know, to playing in the Netherlands, to playing in Brazil, and watching Rajon Rondo score 52 and 19 assists in the game against high-level talent.
How many points did you score if you had 52 points and 19 assists? Oh,
we had over 100, like 109, something like that. You know, we had Josh Smith. We had Deshaun Wright. So, Brian Johnson. We had a pretty good little team. Casey Rivers, which played at Clemson.
Played at Clemson, yeah, good lefty shooter.
Yep, had him. He was a junior that year. So we had a really good team. But, and with that being said, it was 4 10-minute quarters that we played over there. So it was a little different. So there was a lot of experiences there. Some of the games, we played, oh my goodness, we played some of the best players while I was there in 11 years in high school and probably some in the NBA. But, I think the games that I got to coach my daughters is the ones that I appreciate the most now. They're a little older. I got one that came in just for the weekend, so she's still here. So it's, it makes my wife happy, so that makes us all happy. But just those times that I know that I can't get back. But at Ridgeview, I think the best game that our team has ever played was my second year there. We were in the third round. We were going to Aiken, and Aiken was the favorite to win the state championship. They had everybody, and they had a squad. I think they had 7 guys go and play college basketball. But we went in, and we absolutely drilled them. And the environment, and Coach Rosefield maybe speak on that, the environment was just, we beat them by 20, but the whole time it was like it was a 2-point ball game. That's how intense our kids played. The very first 2 trips down, Aiken was going to go at our big guy. We had Malcolm Wilson, which is at Georgetown now. He redshirted this year. He's 6'10", 6'11". They were going to go at him and get him out of the game. And Malcolm Wilson that year had 186 blocks. So that's amazing. But the first 2 trips down, they went and they were going to try to dunk on him. And we were at their place, and I think, well, we're going to get hosed with officiating or whatever. But the best blocks of all time. I mean, just because it was so clean, there's no way you could call foul. And from that point, we definitely changed the game. So, those were good. And definitely the 3 state championships have to be up there too. You can't go through a season and put all that work in and not at the time that you need them to play their best, them not play the best. So, definitely those 3 there are something.
Let me go back to that Aiken game, Coach. You
Yes,
talked
sir.
about it was at Aiken?
That's correct. In South Carolina, the 3rd round game, it all depends, but the 3rd round game this year, we won our region. They had won their region. So the number 1 seeds match up with each other, but it alternates regions. One year your region will host.
Okay.
You travel. So it was our year to travel. So we ended up traveling to them, and the gym was packed. I think and Coach Rosefield, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they have a sign, it's like 1,600. And I doubt it seats 1,600, but I guarantee there was 1,600 people in that gym.
Yeah, I remember taking a picture of that maximum occupancy sign and thinking like that. I don't believe that number's accurate because it was packed. There was a lot of people in that building.
What I wanted to ask you, Coach, was, so you talked about that was, you knew they were a good team. Obviously, you had scouted them. You knew they had a lot of great players. Was your team confident going into that game? I'm not trying to make it about me. I'm thinking about a game that I coached one time. It was a semifinal game, and I was told by a bunch of people that we couldn't beat this team. And I was so confident going into the game. My guys were so focused and ready, and we absolutely kicked this team's butt all up and down the court. Was your team focused and ready? Did you know you guys were going to play well that night?
Well, I knew that we were prepared, and I'm definitely one who believes that my kids will be prepared. So we knew their sets. We knew what they were going to try to run. But I didn't know, because we played them the year before with another team, and I'd lost 11 or 12, and we got beat pretty good by them. I only had 2 returning, and that was Malcolm and Waylon Napper. The rest of them were JV kids. and we got beat by them at MLK the year before. So, and I've seen them play. I'm one that preaches that I expect to win. So we expected to win, but in reality, if you took a poll or if they was betting people around us, they were definitely putting their money on Aiken that night.
That feels so good when you win that game.
Oh man, it was and that was the first time that I got a water bath. So I think that needs to be up there.
I saw the video of the water bath from last year from the state championship. I saw it on like Twitter or something.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Coach, I just looked at it. My team this year had 211 two-point field goals. And you said that kid had 186 blocks in 1 year.
186 blocks.
We had 211 two-point field goals this year. Think about that.
Well, he might have had. I know he had 186 blocks, but he probably altered another 186 shots.
Yeah. Well, no, when you have a guy like that in there, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was such a difference maker and great kid. But I think about your career, at least these 4 years at Ridgeview. That game to me is your signature win, because that was hey, Ridgeview's on the map. Like it was incredible atmosphere, the way your kids play. Like you're completely accurate 20-point game, but our kids were locked in. It was a really special night.
Yes.
That's awesome. That sounds like a fun game to be a part of. Those are funny. Like I said, I just like I was thinking of as you were telling it, it reminded me of a game that I coached. And I remember walking to the locker room at halftime, and I was so wrapped up in the game and knowing that we could beat this team and knowing my kids were focused that I didn't really look at the score. And I walked in at halftime, and I looked up the scoreboard, and we were up 11. And I was like, holy crap, we're up 11. That's awesome. Like I hadn't even realized that I was so engrossed in the game.
And, especially at those type moments, when I went in the locker room, I wanted our guys laser locked in again. I didn't talk about we were up 10, we were up 11. We were talking about, look, we got to do these things to continue to do what we are doing to be able to win. And, it helps to have great players. I mean, on that team, I know they were just juniors, but you had Malcolm Wilson, which is at Georgetown. I had Waylon Napper, which is was first team All-American this year, first team All-American JUCO. So he was a point guard. Our two guard was the freshman of the year in a D2 conference. So I had really good players on that team. So their names just wasn't out there as so to speak Aiken's guys were, but my kids came and competed that night, and like Coach Rocheville said, that is my signature win. That put me on the map in Columbia area as he can coach a little bit. He's doing okay, and I pride myself on playing the best competition that we can play. Even at Ridgeview and being a 4A school, now we're going to 5A school, I want to play a national schedule as best as we can. And, the Bojangles Bash definitely helps with that. There's 3 games a year that we're playing in a national competition, and that just prepares our kids for these type situations. I think this past season, we played 3 teams ranked in the top 7 in the country at the last poll.
Wow.
Even though we lost, we were in all 3 of those games up until the third quarter, or late fourth quarter. In the third quarter, we were still an 8 to 10 point ball game. And, Prolific Prep is one of them. Prolific Prep, I think, ended the season at number 7, maybe. Coach Rosefield can correct me if I'm wrong. I think they finished like number 7 or 8 in one of the polls. But we were up 5 with 3 minutes to go in the game, and my point guard gets hurt. And so we ended up losing by like 6 maybe, but that was the difference. They went to a 1-3-1 half-court trap, and I didn't have that one more guy that I felt comfortable about being in the middle of the floor where we can get them the ball and create. So I had to pull who I was already because I knew that they were going to go to that. That was their signature thing, prolific prep. When they're down, or if they feel like they need to change the momentum, they would all go to a 1-3-1 half court trap. And I'd already had it in my mind. I was going to put Sincere Scott at the top of the key. I had Tyler, then I had Jaden or Davion, my other guard. We were going to split that point, but we were going to get it to the middle because Sincere Scott, he's only 5'8", 5'9", but super quick. And they had a 7-foot guy that's going to try to guard him, and it wasn't going to happen. You know, if we could get him the ball in the middle of the floor, then it's 2-on-1 because I had my Javon Benson short corner. He was just going to rotate over. So we had a plan, but the good Lord decided not to allow us to have it that night. But I think it was crucial for us that Tyler got hurt. We lost him for 5 games after that, and Sincere Scott had to be a point guard for 5 games, and that's not necessarily his position. But in the state championship game, Tyler had to come out of the game some because he had severe cramping, and Sincere had to come in and be a point guard. And I told him at one of the timeouts, I was like, God prepared you for this. There was 5 games this season. You had to be, choose a different role than you're used to. And, he handled it extremely well. And Tyler came back in and, I guess the rest is history, so to speak.
Coach Rosefield showed me some highlights of Sincere Scott. He's a strong young man.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have any Sincere Scotts. I don't.
No.
But we'll play you. We'll play you anytime you want. 5-on-2.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. I like competition. So
I don't know if that's sanctioned. I don't know if that's official.
Now you're only gonna have 2 of your guys, right?
Yeah. I could put 8 of them out there. It might not matter. I have great kids. My kids are awesome kids. They really are, man. They really are. They try. Listen, it was a tough year. They tried their butt off. Like I said, and I told them this at the end of the year, I said, the fact that you guys came to practice every day when we were losing 17 in a row, I said, that says something about you, because there's a lot of kids that would just stop coming.
Yes.
There was a lot of kids that would pack it in and say, you know what, I'm out of here. And I said, none of you guys did that. So
that's great.
All right, Coach, one last thing. It's our final question. If I asked kids that played for you, what would they say is the one thing you say over and over again? It could be like a funny quip or a coaching point, but what's one thing the kids would say? Oh, Coach Stoneman always says this.
I think, to be funny, they will probably say that instead of cussing, I say Jiminy Cricket a lot. So they hear Jiminy Cricket quite a bit. I think, if we're talking about certain things, they're going to say he always preaches effort and attitude. But in a game, especially late situations, they're going to say he says the only thing that matters is time and score.
Okay.
It ain't about scoring. It ain't about me getting my bucket. It's, the only thing that matters is going to be that time and score. So I think that's 3 things that I think all of them would say, or at least I hope they're saying, because that's what I feel like is important in the program.
The Jiminy Cricket's funny. We worked for a coach at South Carolina, Coach Nesta, that would always say, Jesus, criminy.
Yep.
Criminy.
Well, as an AD, I always appreciate the Jiminy Crickets over the alternatives.
But I think I'll talk that. The Jiminy Cricket happens a lot, but I think I have to adapt my coaching to my kids and what they're going to be experiencing. So, and then you coach to the kids that you have. Javon Benson's going to South Carolina. We know he's going to play for an unbelievable coach that is, unbelievably demanding. And, his choice of words are different than what high school coaches will say. But, sometimes I've had to say things just to get him prepared for what he's getting ready to walk into. So there are times that the Jiminy Crickets didn't come out. There was other things, but it was just so I know that I'm helping prepare him for that next level.
All right, Coach. Well, you kind of broke up there for a second. It kind of sounded like you said that you don't say Jiminy Crickets. I'm just kidding with you. I know how it is. I know how you did a great job preparing him, just like you do all of our Ridgeview kids. So, Coach, this is just been a real pleasure to spend some time with you here on our show. Just can't thank you enough for coming in and talking about your greatest game and telling us a little bit more about your journey.
Yes, sir. I greatly appreciate y'all having me on and allowing me to share my experiences.
So for my co-host, Chris de Blasio, I am Brian Rosefield, and thank you for listening to this episode of The Greatest Games.